Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Metaphysics Podcast. I'm Dennis Goddard.
And I'm Louise Hicks.
We're so glad to have you here for this deep dive. We're going to be talking about some seriously mind-bending ideas today. Vibrational alignment, the power of belief, and how that shapes our experience.
It really is all about perception, isn't it?
Yeah.
Imagine a world where your beliefs actively shape the reality that you experience. And I'm not talking about, some vague self-help way. I'm talking about like a fundamental principle of existence. That's the world we're diving into today.
So let's start with this idea of belief as like a creative force. It's a bit of a head-scratcher. Are we really saying that what we believe can change the world around us? Not just how we see things, but like the actual fabric of reality.
It's a really powerful concept, and honestly one that's been explored by many thinkers and philosophers for centuries. What I find so fascinating is that our beliefs act as these powerful filters. They influence how we interpret the world, and they potentially even influence the fabric of reality itself.
Okay, I'm intrigued. But help me wrap my head around this. How does this actually work? Is there a way to like visualize this concept?
Absolutely. Think of it like this. Our consciousness is like a radio receiver. It tunes into specific frequencies based on our beliefs. So just like a radio can pick up different stations depending on where you set the dial, our beliefs might be tuning us into specific aspects of reality.
So you're saying there were like multiple realities out there, like different radio stations, and our beliefs determine which one we experience. That's pretty wild.
It is a very thought-provoking idea, and it's one that's explored by Daryl Anka, who channels an entity called Bashar.
Bashar. Now, for those who are familiar with Daryl Anka and channeling it, it might sound a little out there.
For sure. But for this deep dive, we're not going to get into the debate about like the validity of channeling.
Yeah.
We're going to look at the ideas themselves as thought experiments, exploring the possibilities that they present.
Got it. So we're suspending disbelief for a moment, entertaining the possibility that our beliefs have this incredible power to shape our reality.
Precisely. And that's where things get really interesting. Bashar suggests that all information exists now in the present moment, but our access to it depends on our beliefs and our readiness to receive it.
Okay, so wait, are you saying that everything that ever was, is, or will be is already out there? So waiting for us to tune into it like a giant cosmic library?
Yeah.
Every book exists simultaneously, but we can only check out the ones we're ready for.
I love that analogy. It highlights this idea that our beliefs can act as like internal permission slips. They're allowing us to access certain experiences or abilities. If we don't believe something is possible, we might be blocking ourselves from even perceiving it, let alone experiencing it.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
If you're constantly telling yourself you're not good at something,
Yeah.
you're probably not going to put in the effort to get better. Even if you did make progress, you might not even recognize it because you've convinced yourself that it's not possible.
Exactly. So if we can change our beliefs, could we potentially unlock new levels of experience and understanding?
Yeah.
That's what we're exploring.
Okay, now this is where like my skeptical side kicks in. If our beliefs are so powerful, how do we explain things like the placebo effect? Where people experience real benefits from a sugar pill just because they believe it's a real medication.
That's such a great question. And it really gets to the heart of this whole belief shapes reality thing. Bashar actually has some interesting thoughts on this. He suggests that the collective belief in the efficacy of substances, including placebos, contributes to their observed effects.
So are we saying that our collective belief in science and medicine is actually what makes them work? I mean, that's a pretty bold statement.
It's a different way of looking at things, for sure. But Bashar's perspective doesn't necessarily negate the principles of science or dismiss, the importance of medical advancement. It suggests that there's a deeper interplay between consciousness and the material world than we currently understand.
So it's not that science is wrong, but maybe there's more to the story than we currently realize. There's this unseen layer of consciousness influencing things.
Precisely. It's like saying radio waves exist whether you believe in them or not. Your belief in the radio is what allows you to access them. So the laws of physics and the principles of medicine, they might be operating on a deeper level, one that's influenced by our collective beliefs and expectations.
Okay, I'm starting to get the picture. But this brings up another question. If we can only perceive what we're the vibration of, like Bashar says, how do we make sense of things like war and suffering? Are we choosing to experience that? Or is it just happening in a reality we're observing but not directly a part of?
That's where the concept of the glass wall comes in. Bashar describes it as this way of observing realities and vibrations that might not be totally compatible with our own. We can see them, acknowledge their existence, but we're not necessarily experiencing them in the same way as those who are directly involved.
So it's like watching a news report about a war. We can see the images, feel the emotions, but we're not actually on the battlefield experiencing the physical and emotional trauma directly.
Exactly. And Bashar points out that even though we're observing these difficult situations, it doesn't mean that we hold the same beliefs or have the same issues as those who are experiencing them. We can choose to focus on the positive responses, the acts of unity, and contribute to a shift towards a more peaceful future.
This is heavy stuff. We're getting into some deep philosophical waters here. Let's take a moment to recap what we've covered so far.
Absolutely. We started by exploring the idea that our beliefs might actually have the power to shape the reality we experience. We talked about how our beliefs act as filters, shaping our perceptions and potentially even influencing the very fabric of existence.
We use that analogy of consciousness as a radio receiver, tuning into specific frequencies based on our beliefs. And we discussed the possibility that all information exists now, but our access to it is determined by our beliefs and readiness to receive it.
We also touched on the fascinating concept of the glass wall. This idea that we can observe realities and vibrations that might not be fully compatible with our own.
Right. And this helps us to understand how we can acknowledge the existence of things like war and suffering without necessarily embodying those same beliefs or experiencing those same realities.
We've covered a lot of ground already, and we're just getting started. After a quick break, we'll delve even deeper into the concept of vibrational alignment and explore how we can use this understanding to create a more fulfilling and joyful reality. Stay tuned.
We'll be right back with more from the Deep Dive on the Metaphysics Podcast.
Welcome back to the Metaphysics Podcast. Before the break, we were talking about, this incredible power we have to shape our reality through our beliefs and vibrational alignment.
Yeah, but what exactly is vibrational alignment? I think a lot of people have heard the term, but maybe haven't really dug into what it means.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those buzzwords, but the concept itself is pretty profound. Think of it this way. Everything in the universe is energy vibrating at different frequencies.
Okay.
Our thoughts, our emotions, beliefs, even physical objects, they all have a vibrational frequency.
Okay, so we're all just vibrating energy bundles. I know we talked about radio waves earlier, but now I'm starting to feel like I'm in a Star Wars movie. The force is strong with this one.
Well, in a way, we are all energy. And just like different musical notes can create harmony or dissonance, our personal vibration can be in or out of alignment with the experiences that we want to attract into our lives.
So if we're vibrating at a certain frequency, does that mean we're attracting experiences that match that frequency? Like attracts like kind of thing?
That's the basic idea. When our thoughts, emotions, and beliefs are aligned with our desires, we're essentially broadcasting a clear signal that attracts experiences that match that vibration. But when we're feeling out of alignment, that signal gets distorted, and we might attract experiences that don't really serve us.
Okay, so how do we know if we're in alignment? Do we get like a cosmic text message or something?
I wish it were that easy. It can be a bit more subtle. Bashar talks about a rush of alignment energy that we experience when something is out of sync with our true vibration.
Wait, a rush of energy? Like a jolt of electricity? That sounds kind of intense.
Not quite that dramatic, but it can definitely feel like a sudden surge of emotion.
Okay.
It might be anger, guilt, shame, even excitement. The key is to pay attention to these feelings and to see them as signals, not judgments.
So if I'm suddenly like feeling super annoyed or anxious, that could be a sign that something's out of alignment.
It could be. It's like your internal guidance system is saying, hey, pay attention. This situation, this thought pattern, this belief, it's not resonating with who you truly are. It's time to check in with yourself.
So instead of getting caught up in the negativity of those emotions, we should try to view them as opportunities to realign. So it's not about ignoring those uncomfortable feelings, but using them as information.
Exactly. It's about using that rush of energy as a guide. Breathe into the feeling, investigate its source. Ask yourself, what about this situation feels off? Is it a belief I need to re-examine, a boundary I need to set, a choice I need to make?
So it's about getting curious about that feeling, understanding its message, rather than just like reacting to it.
Right. Maybe you realize that deep down you really value authenticity and honesty, but you're in a situation where you feel pressured to conform or to compromise your values. That's valuable information. It's a sign that something needs to shift.
So by paying attention to my vibrational alignment, I can make choices that are truly in my best interest, even if they don't seem logical or practical at first glance. It's about trusting my gut, feeling my intuition.
Exactly. It's about tuning into that inner wisdom that knows what's best for you, even if your mind is trying to convince you otherwise.
This is making a lot of sense, but it also sounds like a lot of work. Is there like a shortcut?
Yeah.
A vibrational alignment app we can download?
Wouldn't that be nice? Unfortunately, there's no quick fix. It's an ongoing process of self-awareness, reflection, and conscious choice-making.
Hmm.
It's about becoming aware of your vibrational state and making choices that bring you into alignment with your desires and your highest potential.
So no easy answers, huh? But if I'm understanding this right, the payoff is pretty incredible. We're talking about shaping our own reality here. No
Right.
pressure or anything.
Exactly. And it's not about achieving some kind of perfect state of alignment 24/7. We're all human. We're going to have moments where we feel off kilter. The key is to be aware of those fluctuations and to use them as opportunities to course correct.
This is mind-blowing stuff.
Yeah.
It really challenges our conventional understanding of how the world works.
Yeah.
It makes you realize that we have way more power and agency than we might think.
It does. And it's empowering, isn't it, to think that we're not just passive bystanders in our own lives, but active creators of our reality.
Absolutely. But how do we actually put this into practice? How do we take this concept of vibrational alignment and use it to create the life we want? That's what I'm really curious about.
That's a great question, and it's one we'll be diving into after the break. We'll explore some practical tools and techniques for aligning with our desires and manifesting the experiences we want to create. Stay with us.
Welcome back to the Metaphysics Podcast. We've been on quite a journey today exploring this fascinating concept of vibrational alignment.
It's been an incredible discussion, and like we promised, we're going to get into the practical side of things now.
Right before the break, we were talking about how to use that rush of alignment energy as a guide to help us make choices that really resonate with our true selves. But it's all still a bit abstract. Can you give us some examples? Like, how does this actually play out in everyday life?
Sure. Let's say you're offered a new job, and on paper, it looks amazing, more money, a fancy title, the whole 9 yards. But something about it just doesn't feel right. You get that rush of energy, maybe a knot in your stomach, a sense of hesitation.
Okay, I can relate to that. So instead of ignoring that feeling and just going for what seems like the most logical choice, you're saying I should pause and really examine it.
Exactly. That feeling is a signal, not a punishment. It's your intuition trying to tell you something. Ask yourself, what about this opportunity feels out of alignment? Is it the company culture, the workload? Does it clash with my values?
So it's about getting curious about that feeling, understanding its message rather than just reacting to it. Don't just shove it down and ignore it.
Right. Maybe after some reflection, you realize that, deep down you prioritize work-life balance more than a bigger paycheck. And this job would totally compromise that. That's valuable information. It helps you make a decision that's truly in alignment with what you want.
It's like choosing the path that feels expansive and energizing, rather than the one that feels constricting, even if that constricting path looks really shiny from the outside.
That's a great way to put it. And it applies to all areas of life, not just careers. Think about relationships. Maybe you're in a relationship that's comfortable, familiar, but you constantly feel drained or uninspired.
Oh, been there. So that feeling of being drained, that lack of inspiration, that's my alignment energy telling me something's off.
It could be. Maybe the relationship is no longer serving your growth, or maybe your values have shifted and they no longer align with your partners. It doesn't necessarily mean that you need to end the relationship, but it's a signal to, have an honest conversation with yourself and with your partner. See if you can realign things or if it's time to move on.
This is starting to make so much sense. It's like we have this built-in radar that's constantly scanning for alignment. And those uncomfortable feelings are just the alarm bells going off.
That's a great analogy. And the more we practice paying attention to those alarm bells, the more skilled we become at making choices that, support our well-being and create a reality that resonates with our true selves.
This has been an amazing deep dive. We explored the idea that our beliefs can shape our reality, that we can tap into our vibrational alignment to guide our choices, and even that negative emotions can be valuable signals if we listen to them.
It is empowering to realize that we're not just passive bystanders in our own lives. We have the power to create a reality that reflects our deepest desires and our highest potential just by understanding and working with this concept of vibrational alignment.
If our listeners could take away just one thing from this conversation, what would you want it to be?
I think the most important takeaway is that every single moment is an opportunity to align with our truth. Pay attention to your feelings, trust your intuition, and make choices that resonate with your heart. Don't be afraid to question things, to check in with yourself, and make sure you're on a path that feels good and right for you.
That's such a powerful reminder.
Yeah.
And remember, as Bashar says, the only reality you can experience is the one you allow yourself to believe is possible. So what kind of reality will you choose? What kind of world do you want to create for yourself?
That's a question for each of you to ponder, and we encourage you to, continue exploring these concepts. See how they resonate with you, how you can apply them to your own life, and what shifts start to occur when you do.
Thank you so much for joining us on this mind-expanding adventure on the Metaphysics podcast. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please hit that subscribe button and leave us a review. It really helps others find the show and join the conversation.
And be sure to share this episode with anyone who might be interested in, exploring these ideas. Let's keep the conversation going.
Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep creating the reality of your dreams.